Welcome to the next video in our race training series. In today's video, we're going to demystify the jargon used in the racing rules of sailing. I think this will go a long way to making the rules more understandable for those of you who are new to competing. We'll be covering the definitions of the racing rules of sailing. And if any of you have downloaded the booklet, unfortunately it's not produced in print form anymore. These are the definitions that are at the front of the document. Just briefly to recap, in our last lesson, we discussed how to use the racing rules of sailing tactically to get an advantage over other boats in the fleet. And we broke that down into the principles of the rules of sailing, when boats meet, general limitations, marks and obstructions, and the changes to the rules that will be effective as of the beginning of next year. Right, on to today's lesson. Let's start off with the definition of clear astern, clear ahead, and an overlap. One boat is clear astern of another when her hull and equipment in normal position are behind a line abeam from the aftermost point of the other boat's hull and equipment in normal position. The other boat is said to be clear ahead. They overlap when neither is clear astern. However, they also overlap when a boat between them overlaps both. These terms always apply to boats on the same tack. They apply to boats on opposite tacks only when Rule 18 applies between them, or when both boats are sailing more than 90 degrees from the true wind. So just to clarify, Rule 18 is the rule that pertains to mark room. And when we look at the various diagrams, I'll highlight that to you. So we have some examples of clear astern and clear ahead and overlap. In diagram 1, the yellow boat is clear ahead of the blue boat. In diagram 2, there is an overlap between the two of them because the bow, the pointy end of the blue boat, crosses the line that extends from the stern of the yellow boat. And similarly in diagram 3, there is also an overlap, even though the boats are separated. In this set of examples, you'll notice that in diagram 1, the blue boat and the yellow boat are both on the same tack, even though one is going upwind, the yellow boat's going upwind, and the blue boat is going downwind. The sails are on the same side. So they are on the same tack and therefore are overlapped. In diagram 2, although they're not on the same tack, both boats are 90 degrees off the wind and therefore are overlapped. And in diagram 3, the blue boat is overlapped by both the yellow boat and the green boat because the yellow boat between them is overlapped. In the next set of examples, here in diagram 1, because the yellow boat is not between the blue boat and the green boat, the blue boat is overlapped by the yellow boat, but not by the green boat. And then lastly, in diagram 2, they're both on opposite tacks, 90 degrees or more off the wind, and they are overlapped because of Rule 18. They're coming into a mark. Next definition we're going to look at is the definition of fetching a mark. A boat is fetching a mark when she is in a position to pass to windward of it and leave it on the required side without changing tack. So if you look at diagram 1, both boats are sailing towards mark number 1, the red mark number 1 in the top left-hand corner. And if we assume that they are both close hauled, the yellow boat would be able to sail directly to mark number 1 and round it without tacking, so she would be said to be fetching a mark. The blue boat would either have to put in a tack to round mark number 1, or it would have to use its momentum as per diagram number 2, where the blue boat doesn't actually tack. Her sails do luff at position number 3, but momentum carries her around the mark, and she is then able to round the mark and proceed without tacking. So she also would be deemed to have fetched the mark. The next definition we're going to look at is that of finishing. A boat finishes when any part of a hull or crew or equipment in normal position crosses the finish line from the course side. However, she has not finished if after crossing the finishing line, she A, takes a penalty under Rule 44.2. Now, Rule 44.2 is a 1 and 2 turn penalties. Or B, corrects an error under Rule 28.2 made at the line. Rule 28.2 covers the course sailed, and that is the rule where it's indicated that a boat's course is represented by a string, and if the string is pulled tight, that the string should pass all the marks on the correct side and in the correct order, or continues to sail the course. And we'll have a look at a few diagrams for that. First one, A, if the boat takes a penalty under Rule 44.2, a 1 or 2 turn penalty, after crossing the line, she is not deemed to have finished. What she would need to do from position 6 is she would need to put in a jibe and another tack, cross the line, and then come back down over the line to finish. The example for part B corrects an error under Rule 28.2 made at the line. Here we see that boat in position between position 2 and position 3 does not cross the finish line. She goes the wrong side of the finishing pin. So she then comes position 4, crosses the finishing line from the wrong side, puts in a tack, position 5, comes downwind at position 6, position 7, has to go back upwind to position 8, and at position 9 she eventually finishes. But she doesn't finish at position 6. And then the last example, C, continues to sail the course. The left-hand boat crosses the line and then heads off to starboard. That is a finish. The middle boat crosses the line, but then continues to sail the course, so she hasn't been deemed to finish. And the right-hand boat sails the wrong side of the leeward mark, the brown mark just below the wind indicator with an L in it. She needs to sail on the other side of that mark, so she wouldn't be deemed to finish if and when she crosses the finishing line either. The next definition we're going to look at is keep clear. A boat keeps clear of a right-of-way boat, A, if the right-of-way boat can sail her course with no need to take avoiding action, and B, when the boats are overlapped, if the right-of-way boat can also change course in both directions without immediately making contact. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. The next one we'll look at is leeward and windward. A boat's leeward side is the side that is, or when she is head to wind was, away from the wind. However, when sailing by the lee or directly downwind, her leeward side is the side on which her mainsail lies. The other side is her windward side. When two boats on the same tack overlap, the one on the leeward side of the other is the leeward boat. The other is the windward boat. We'll have a look at a diagram for that. So on the left-hand side, we have the yellow and the blue boat. They're going downwind. They're on the same tack. And the boat on the right-hand side, the yellow boat, would be deemed to be the windward boat. And the blue boat would be deemed to be the leeward boat. And this is because the sails lie on the leeward side of both boats. If we look at the red and green boat on the right-hand side, they're on opposite tacks and they have opposite leeward sides. So again, the side over which the mainsail lies is the leeward side of the boat. So on the red boat, it's the right-hand side or the starboard side. And on the green boat, it's the left-hand or the port side of the boat that is the leeward side. A mark. This is an object the sailing instructions require a boat to leave on a specified side, and a race committee vessel surrounded by navigable water from which the starting or finishing line extends. An anchor line or an object attached accidentally to a mark is not part of it. You may therefore touch the anchor line and proceed without taking a penalty turn. Next, we'll look at mark room. This is room for a boat to leave a mark on the required side. Also, A, room to sail to the mark when a proper course is to sail close to it, and B, room to round the mark as necessary to sail the course. However, mark room for a boat does not include room to tack unless she is overlapped inside and to windward of the boat required to give mark room, and she would be fetching the mark after her tack. We'll look at an example of that. Let's have a look at an example for mark room. You'll notice the yellow and the blue boats. And the blue boat is overlapped inside and to windward of the yellow boat. And the yellow boat therefore required to give mark room, as the blue boat would be fetching the mark after she's tacked. Next, we'll look at obstructions. An obstruction is an object that a boat could not pass without changing course substantially if she were sailing directly towards it and one of her hull lengths from it. An object that can be safely passed only on one side and an area so designated by the sailing instructions are also obstructions. However, a boat racing is not an obstruction to other boats unless they are required to keep clear of her in Rule 23. A vessel underway, including a boat racing, is never a continuing obstruction. Now, for those of you who are not too familiar with your rules, Rule 23 covers capsized, anchored, boats aground, or boats being rescued. So if a boat is capsized, anchored, aground, or carrying out or being rescued, they are deemed to be obstructions. And an example of that, not a very good one, but assume that the green boat is not underway, it is being rowed. So imagine that it doesn't have sails on it. It would then be an obstruction to both the red boat and the purple boat. Next, we're going to look at proper course. A course a boat would sail to finish as soon as possible in the absence of the other boats, referred to in the rule using the term, a boat has no proper course before her starting signal. The next definition we're going to look at is room. The space a boat needs in existing conditions, including space to comply with her obligations under the rules of Part 2 and Rule 31, while maneuvering promptly in a seaman-like way. Now, part two of the rules is when boats meet. So those are most of the rules that we discussed last time. And rule 31 is the rule that covers touching a mark. The next rule, and this one I'm not going to read for you, is the definition of a rule. And for those of you who want to go through it, you're welcome to read through that slide. There are 7 areas that could define a rule as being a rule. Next, let's have a look at the definition of a start. A boat starts when, having been entirely on the pre-start side of the starting line at or after her starting signal, and having complied with Rule 30.1, if it applies, any part of her hull, crew, or equipment crosses the start line in the direction of the first mark. Rule 30.1 is the I-flag rule, which basically states that if in the last minute prior to the start the boat crosses the line, she needs to then go round the ends. So either on the outside of the pin or the outside of the committee boat to then start correctly. Next, we're going to look at tack, starboard or port. A boat is on the tack, starboard or port corresponding to her windward side. So if we have a look at the first diagram, you'll notice that the red boat, the windward side, the side from which the wind is coming, is the left hand or the port side. So therefore the red boat is on port tack, whereas the green boat, the side from which the wind is coming, is the right or starboard side, and she is then deemed to be on starboard tack. For those of you who get confused with this, one of the ways that I was always taught to remember it as a youngster was that if I'm sitting on the correct side of the boat, opposite the mainsail, and I have the tiller in my left hand, I'm on starboard tack. So I'll repeat that. If I'm sitting on the correct side of the boat, opposite the mainsail, and I have the tiller in the left hand, I'm on starboard tack. In the second diagram, you'll notice that in position 1 down at the bottom, the red boat is on port tack. Position 2, she's head to wind, her sails are luffing. In position 3, she is on starboard tack. And in position 4, her sails are luffing again. When your sails are luffing, you have no rights. You're on neither port or starboard tack. The last definition we're going to look at today is that of a zone. And this is the area around a mark within a distance of 3 hull lengths of the boat nearer to it. A boat is in the zone when any part of her hull is in the zone. So here we have 2 boats, a yellow boat and a blue boat. You'll notice that the blue boat is substantially bigger than the yellow boat, and we have 2 circles around the windward mark. The solid circle, which would be the zone for the yellow boat, and the dotted circle, which would be the zone for the blue boat. Lesson 4, how to stay out of trouble on the race course and ensure that you finish each race ahead of the fleet, will be released on Monday at 12 noon UTC. Hope you'll join me for that. And in the interim, please leave your questions and comments in our private Facebook group, and I'll be sure to answer them there. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Bye.